Good morning, students. Welcome back to our YouTube channel, Dentizzy. Let's make dentistry easy with Dentizzy. In today's video, we shall describe about the basics of biomechanics. To know about biomechanics, let me tell you what mechanics is. Mechanics is effect of forces on a body is called as mechanics. When it acts on the biological system, then that is called as the biomechanics. In this lecture, we'll describe about force, center of resistance, moments, a little bit about couple and center of rotation. Let's discuss one by one. To start with, let's start with the force. To know about force, this is defined as the action of one body on the another body so that it tends to change the shape or motion of the body. Supposedly, this was a ball hitting a block, and the block will falls down. So, one body is changing or tends to change the shape or motion of the another body, so that is being called as a force. Force has specific magnitude and direction. If we need to study the force in case of orthodontics, the units will be grams. All the forces described in case of orthodontics in the form of grams. If we look at this diagram, this is the tooth, this is the point on which the force is acting. Whenever the force is acting on a particular point, so that is called as the origin or the point of force application. And in this particular case, the tooth is being translated or is moved away to the another point, to the another place with the use of this force application. So that particularly direction is called as line of action. Depending upon the line of action, the force can be pull type or the push type. Now describing about the center of resistance, which is another important topic in case of biomechanics. Now center of resistance is that particular point on the tooth where a single force would produce the translation. Means the whole body means the whole body is being translated or moved to another position. So that particular point is called as the center of resistance. About center of resistance, this is not variable. This is a fixed point in case of the healthy tooth. It is said that in case of healthy tooth, here is the alveolar crest. This is at a position which is 2/5 from the alveolar crest along the length of the root of the tooth. This is about center of resistance. From this diagram, we know whenever the force is applied to a particular point, if the whole tooth is moving itself, it is being translated that particular point is the center of resistance. But when we try to describe about the moments, whenever the forces are being applied onto the tooth, which is not passing through, in which the line of action is not through the center of resistance of the tooth, in that case, the tooth will not translate itself. Rather, the tooth will have tendency to rotate. So that particularly is called as moment. That particular rotational tendency is called as moment. So it can be clockwise or anti-clockwise according to the line of force of action. Now the magnitude of moment can be calculated. It can be calculated as the amount of force applied onto the tooth. It is multiplied by the perpendicular distance between the point of force of application and the center of resistance of the tooth. So the distance between these two multiplied by the force application will tell us about the magnitude of moment. Next is couple. When two equal and opposite forces they are being applied to the tooth or the surface of the tooth which are non-collinear in action, that will produce a pure rotation around the center of resistance. If you look at the diagram given below, here are the two forces which are equal and opposite in direction. This is the tooth which is being rotated. The two forces are equal and opposite, and these are the two distance from the center of resistance of the tooth. We have calculated about the magnitude of the moment. So if we look at individually, these are the two magnitudes of the moments which have been created here, right? So the magnitude of couple would be the addition of the two individual moments which have been generated. So basically the sum of the moments created by the two forces would make up the couple. And about center of rotation is any point around which the tooth rotates itself. This is a variable point. It varies according to the tooth movement. This is not a fixed point, just like the center of resistance, but it is variable. There is another very important concept about MF ratio. Most of the students, they confuse about MF ratios, that what is MF ratio. A very basic concept behind lies here is, look at the diagram. If you look at the diagram, a single force is being applied to the tooth surface here, which leads to the tipping movement. This is the uncontrolled tipping movement of the tooth. That is, the crown moves in one direction, and there is a difference in the crown and the root movement. The tooth movements in which the root is moving in the opposite direction, they are less likely or less desirable in case of the orthodontic tooth movement. To avoid that, there is a need to apply a moment which will counteract that particular movement of the root portion of the tooth. So, for that, a ratio has been described: moment to avoid the unwanted tooth movement of the root portion, and the force which is required for the crown movement. And that particular ratio is called as the MF ratio. So this is all about MF ratio, and it is variable and different for the different types of the tooth movement. So this was all about the basics of biomechanics. So stay tuned, like, share and subscribe. Thank you.